Now, what I showed you was a selector based off of just the body tag, right? And these selectors, whatever goes inside of these parentheses inside of a string, actually are equivalent to a style tag like a CSS tag. And it doesn't have to just modify CSS. You can do all sorts of other things. So what I want to do is actually change the H1 tag in here. I want to actually change the text to it after a certain amount of time. So I can change the color to this text by saying H1, just like that. And we can say color is green, just like that. That's the CSS version. I refresh, color is green. After a few seconds, we are going to get red and green. There we go, red and green. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that background color fade. Instead, what I want to do is I want to change the H1 color as well as what the H1 says. So I'm going to use the $, the selector for H1 as a string, and then I'm going to change the CSS color. And what color do I want to do? I'm just going to change it to being purple. Notice that there is a comma here versus the colon, just slightly different. It's saying the attribute that you're going to change of the CSS and then the value you are going to change it to. And then I can actually change the text that's in here using another method simply called text. And inside of this method, whatever method we want to say there, and we'll just say hello again. We save that. And after 5 seconds, this should run for us. I'm going to actually change it to 2 seconds so it doesn't take that long. And I'll refresh in here, 1, 2, and hello again, and it's purple. Right, so that's something that's really cool about selectors. But these, of course, are HTML elements. This is not great if I added a few more H1 tags in here, right? Yeah, sure, they all currently say H1. I mean, they're all going to change right off the bat. Now, this is a good thing to know is, hey, these selectors work very similar to CSS does, but I can do more advanced things such as changing the text. And I believe this is one of the reasons that jQuery was invented in the first place, was to allow us to add more functionality to our basic HTML. I think so much of JavaScript's success has to do with that. Of course, jQuery is JavaScript. It's written in JavaScript, but it's just a shortcut or a shorthand to doing JavaScript itself. There is a way to do all this stuff with JavaScript or raw JavaScript. It's just a lot harder. jQuery makes it easier for us. But I still want to address that issue when it comes to each one of these, right? And that is I'm selecting all of the H1 tags. Well, what if I wanted to get maybe just the first one, like this one right here, or the second one? How do we go about doing that? Well, not much different than using CSS, and that's inth child, and then the number that we want. So like if I said 2, this is the second one, right? So that's a way I can change that one. But what if I wanted to change the third one in a different manner than inth child or first child or the child selector elements? I can use an ID. So I'll just say header 3. This, of course, is an arbitrary name here. And I can even grab that, and instead of using the H1 tag, I can use the hash tag and header-3. Now, of course, that is the exact same that you would do in CSS, header-3, and then you write your CSS there, right? This just happens to be inside of a string, and that's how you actually set it in jQuery. So hello again, header 3. So now all of these things are going to happen. Refresh, we see hello again, header 3, and it works hopefully as you may expect. And of course, the last thing is adding a class. So you can say a class of header, and we can add it to each one, no matter what. So finally, we can do $.header, and then let's go ahead and do another CSS. And this time I'm going to do background color, and I'll say green, and then I'll also do CSS, and we'll say padding, and I'm going to add 30 pixels. Okay? So notice that I chained these together. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. So basically, we're getting our selector here, and then we're just applying elements to it after. We save that, refresh, and after a few seconds, boom, everything changed. It looks a lot different, right? So we have the different background color, we have padding, but if we see here, these are still the same. They're exactly the same as we may expect. So you should play around with this a little bit, just with CSS and text. There is other methods, of course, that we can add to these selectors, but the key thing here is kind of play around with different selectors and how you may change them. So like a P class, why don't you change this paragraph and actually make it a big paragraph, and then, make it scrollable, make it a certain height and make it scrollable. I'm actually going to show you how to do that in the next one, but I'm going to leave you with that challenge right now to see if all of this stuff is starting to sink in a little bit. Stay with us.